Okay, so this is for Algebra 1 students. This one is going to be about domain and range. So, two of the very important things to remember is that domain goes with your x values, aka also your x-axis. Your range goes with your y values, or your y-axis, okay? So, this right here, this graph that is shown is one of the most easy, simple graphs you can be given asking what is the domain, what is the range, okay? That is because if you have arrows on both ends like that, you look at it, you automatically know that it is going to be all real numbers for both domain and range, because the arrows tell you that the line is just going to keep going, it's never going to end, so that means that it will just be all real numbers from negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay, so this is a different type of line on a graph that you could be given. You see this one here has different endpoints. This time they're not arrows, they are what we call closed circles. So you can be given closed circles or open circles on the endpoints of your graph. I am going to tell you the way that I remembered it in school. It is not the most eloquent way of hearing it, but my students have heard me say it before, and it also helps them remember. If you have a closed circle, when you write your domain and range, the inequality symbol will be less than or equal to. Rarely, sometimes when it comes to different types of graphs, you could also use greater than or equal to, but for right now, we're going to focus on less than or equal to. The reason that the way I remembered that the closed circle had the or equal to underneath is because of this line right here. Less than or equal to, it has an extra line in it. That means you have to color in the circle. Less than is just, it's empty. There's no line underneath. Therefore, you get an empty circle. All right? So with a closed circle, that means that the point it is on is included, okay? With an open circle, that means it's not included in the domain or range. This one in particular, what I have my students always do is I like for them to box in their graph. So you would draw lines like this, okay? Just like that, all right? And then the next thing I have them do is I have them write out their points. So over here, I'm going to write out the first one, which is going to be -6, -8. Okay, and then my second one, which is 5, 8. Okay, so with domain, remember domain gets your x values. Here are your x values, here are your y values. I always have my kids go ahead and put the variable that goes with whatever you're writing out. So with domain, it would get x. With range, it would get y. These both have closed circles, so that means on each side of the inequality or of the variable, I'm going to write less than or equal to. So over here on the right goes your smaller numbers, your little numbers. So my smallest x is -6. So -6 is going to go right here. Over here on the, did I say on the right? I meant on the left. On the right goes the bigger numbers. So my biggest x value is 5. All right. So that is my domain. My domain, it's done. Okay. That's my answer for domain. Now for my range, same thing. On the left goes your smaller number. So my smallest y is -8, and on the right goes my biggest y, which is +8. And that, my friends, is all you have to do to find domain and range with this one. So this means that -6, 5, -8, and 8 are included in the x and y values for the domain and range. okay, because it is less than or equal to. So it can be also equal to the numbers that you have identified. So here is another example. This time we have two different endpoints, okay? So we've always usually had two of the same, whether it be arrows or closed circles. This time we have one open and one closed. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to box everything in like that, okay? So let me write out my points. So the first one is -5, -2, and the second one is 4, 3. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and set up my stuff. So with this one, same thing as before, your small numbers go on the left, your big values go on the right. So here are our x values, here are our y values. Remember, domain goes with x, range goes with y. I'm going to put my smallest x value on the left, so that's -5, my biggest x value on the right, which is 4. Now, the way you pick your inequalities is whichever endpoint goes with -5, that inequality goes right here, the inequality that goes with that type of endpoint. So when x is -5, the endpoint is an open circle, which means it'll just be less than. Okay? When x is 4, the endpoint is closed, which means it's going to be less than or equal to before the 4. Okay? With range, our smallest y, -2, goes right here. Our biggest y goes over here. Same thing with domain. What endpoint goes with -2? Well, right here, it's open, so it's just going to be less than. What endpoint goes with when y is 3? It's closed, less than or equal to. So that would be your answer for domain and range of this function right here. Just look at the endpoints. What endpoint goes with that number, and that's the inequality symbol that you write next to it. This last one is one of the most difficult or complex you might see. So this one has 3 different points. However, not all 3 points will be used in the same ways, if that makes sense. If that didn't make sense, it will here in a second. So I'm gonna do what I always, oh my goodness, wrong pencil. Do what I have done before and just go ahead and set everything up. Then I'm gonna box it in. So here is my lowest point, here's my highest point, my leftmost point, and my rightmost point, okay? So, next, I'm gonna write out all my different points. So we have, what is that one? -7, 1. That one is 5, -4. This one's a little bit harder to read. And then 7, 7. Okay, so those are my 3 points. Now, usually your leftmost point lines up with whatever your bottom point is, for instance, okay? But this time, your leftmost point and your bottom point don't match up, okay? Because it's like this instead of like that, okay? So sometimes it's easier to just look at the numbers, like right here, than to look at the graph when it comes to writing out your domain and range. So a lot of times my students don't even want to look at this whenever they're writing everything out. But I'm going to keep it up so you can look at it. So on the left goes your smallest x and your smallest y. So when I look at all of these, my smallest x is right here, -7. My biggest x, +7. Then for my range, my smallest y is -4, so I'm going to put -4 right here. My biggest y is right here, which is 7. Now, you do need to look at the graph when it comes to picking out your inequality symbols. So when we are talking about when x is -7, that's this endpoint. That is a closed circle, which means it needs to have or equal to. So I'm going to put less than or equal to. When x is 7, it's an open circle, which means it's not going to be or equal to. It's just going to be less than. Now for my range, my domain is done. We're done with domain. All right, one answer down, one more to go. When y is -4, that is right here. That's a closed circle, so it's going to get less than or equal to. My highest point, so when y is +7, it is an open circle, so it's just going to get less than. And that is your final answer right here. Okay, so with domain, you look from left to right, okay? And with range, you look bottom to top, okay? Because left to right would be your smallest x to your greatest x, and bottom to top would be your smallest y to your greatest y. I hope this quick little review on domain and range helped. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. If you're one of my students, reach out to me via email or in Google Classroom. Thank you.